Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to episode 6 of The Sober Grind. My name is Austin. I'm joined by the ever so amazing Pej.
Hello. How you doing, Pej?
Awesome. Today we are talking about long-term sobriety and what exactly that means. Before we jump into that, I just want to thank all of our amazing listeners so far, all the incredible feedback that we've gotten. Thank you. If this podcast was useful for you, all I ask in return is if you could send us some feedback or leave us a quick review on iTunes, Google Play, whatever your preferred platform is. We're also on YouTube now. We have all of our podcasts in video formats. So I would love to hear your thoughts to see what we're doing right.
Write a review for us, please.
Please. It's a big help so we can continue doing this.
Support us. Grow this thing.
Yeah. All right. So to jump in, Pej, what is long-term sobriety? What does that mean to you? And when can someone classify themselves as in long-term sobriety?
Well, I mean, when I was newer in sobriety, I would hear the words long-term sobriety being thrown around. And obviously, you go to lots of meetings and stuff, and you see a lot of people taking 10 and 20 and 30 years of sobriety.
Wow.
And when you're brand new, that it doesn't sound like something you can fathom.
It seems
right?
forever away.
Right. So I was more attracted to the guy that had 7 months rather than 7 years or 70 years. Not that I've ever met anyone that has 70 years. Almost that.
Incredible.
But long-term sobriety, I think it's up to the individual to know. They say usually after the 5-year mark, you're not a newcomer anymore. So if you've pretty much stayed in sobriety for over 5 years, something's going on that's different. You've made a decision. This is a way of life for you. Not to say, nobody ever wants to say that I'm going to stay sober forever, because they say that when you do that you're cocky, right?
Right.
But it depends. There's some people that the people that raised me in recovery and sobriety, the old timers, for better sake of words, or long timers, they would say I do this thing one day at a time for the rest of my life. And that was
I love that.
That within itself is
one day at
a time for the rest of my life. So it sounded to me like they're here to stay, right?
Yeah.
So long-term sobriety can be determined by the individual themselves. How long have you been sober? Have you been doing this? Has this become a new way of life for you that you're comfortable in? Is emotional sobriety treating you well? Are you on your way out, or are you staying in? So long-term sobriety, I believe, could be anywhere from 5 to 10 years.
That's awesome.
And up.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So what are some, if there are, common ways that prevent people to getting to that landmark?
Things that could prevent people from getting to that landmark. So I think a lot of people, obviously, not just everybody decides that they want to get sober. Some people get thrown into treatment. Some people lose the wife. They come in on the wife card to certain meetings. They want to make the courts happy, the judges happy, the attorneys happy. So some people, I think it all depends on the level of desperation within the individual that's coming to get treatment. How long will they probably stay after, or what might happen for them in the recovery that will keep them here longer. So for me, I was absolutely licked. I had nothing going for me. I was homeless. Nothing else seemed to be working for me. So what happened for me, I kind of just clicked with recovery in a sense where I thought, this has got to be a different way of life. What I see often is a lot of people will come and they have a goal. And sometimes people around them might say you might want to stick around, at least try 1 year, and then you can figure it out. Now, depending on the person's recovery and how they are going about sobriety in that 1 year's time, by the time they get to the 1 year mark, they might actually think, oh, I like this. I think I want to keep living this way. Yeah. Some people relapse on the day of their 1 year.
Really?
Oh, yeah. It happens often. Yeah.
Okay. So that's a great segue. So are there a lot of common walls, so to speak, in recovery? Maybe 1 year, or maybe a certain...
It depends.
What's your opinion?
I see relapse can happen amongst anybody in recovery. I've seen it for people that have up to 20 years, 30 years. I've seen it, yeah. So I think that often, depending on where you get sober, what environment you get sober, and if you're a 12-step community type of person, if you stick with the 12-step community and you make meetings your regular thing and you're actually working with others, then there's a greater chance of you being, more connected and staying connected because that's your support. That's your group of people that when you don't show up, they start checking on you, like something may happen. Other things, barriers, walls, whatever you want to call it, often people's lives come back together and they forget where they came from. So let's say they had been losing everything in life, the car, the wife, the house, the kids, everything. They were facing jail time, for instance. But they come in, they get sober, they start, doing better for themselves in their lives, and they get everything like back, the car, the house, the wives, all the different tangible things.
Yeah.
And then they suddenly think, well, I'm a little busy. Life's a little busy. I don't need to go to meetings right now. I don't need to do this right now. Or I want to go to the gym. Or they make other things more important, so those become like their walls from actually
Gotcha.
staying centered and focused on, working on long-term sobriety.
So what are some common ways that people relapse?
Well,
Like triggers or...
triggers. Often, it depends. There's different people. You have such a large variety of people that come into recovery. You have the manic depressant. You have the anxiety-ridden alcoholic or addict. You have the person who's not quite sure if they're really an addict or an alcoholic. They haven't really gotten to that. They've lost everything. They've burned their whole life to the ground, but they're still contemplating if they're really addicted to crack cocaine or if they're really an alcoholic, even though they, have no less than, 10 drinks at the bar or whatever. So when you have people that come into recovery and they're here for a while, they often forget what happened. So the triggers that could happen is they might go to slippery places.
Yeah.
They might start going to nightclubs, right? So we do say in recovery that if you're spiritually fit, you can go places where alcohol is being served and you'll be all right. I myself have gone to many clubs and bars.
I'm sure that's hard though.
At
Or
first
it can be.
it can be hard depending because I remember when I was newly sober, I remember sitting with my mom in a restaurant. We were going to have lunch at the Daily Grill, and we're sitting down, we're eating, and there was this lady drinking a glass of champagne and just nursing that thing. Like I was just, and here I'm sitting across the restaurant, just watching this lady. I'm fixated on her drinking that drink, thinking like, well, why can't I just drink? Like, what's the big deal? So already my brain is playing games with me. Now, if I'd have gone on that thought and turn it into a craving, and then turn the craving into an action, then before you know it, I might just, suddenly say, forget all this sobriety stuff. I can drink and go have a drink. I basically, the trigger became more than just a trigger. It actually became something that I took into effect and thought I was more than, and I was above it, and that's not my problem. I'm not doing meth. I'm just going to go do that. People put themselves in situations, hanging out with old friends. That's friends that you used to use and drink with. You see all them having fun, and then you hang out with them enough. Like they say, you hang out in a barbershop long enough, you're going to get a haircut. Not in my case, of course, but truly, there's all kinds of different triggers. Also, hardships in life.
Yeah.
You may be losing something. You may be going through breakups. A lot of the times they say finance and romance are the things that take people out. You may have lost the love of your life, so you thought. And then what's the next best thing to numb out is an addict alcoholic who doesn't really have strong recovery and can't overcome like those times may actually go and drink to just numb the pain. Yeah.
Gotcha. So what's your opinion on this? So say a normie or whatever you'd like to call him, maybe likes to have a drink with dinner, or can go to a bar and have one, maybe two drinks. For someone that, just using the example of alcohol, someone that's taken it too far, that's classified as an alcoholic, gone through the recovery process, is there any room to have just one drink, or because that they've gone so far, that one drink is too much of a slippery slope and they have to remain in their sobriety, drink nothing? What's your opinion on just having a drink?
I believe that a person that's in recovery, be it an addict, an alcoholic, should never forget, were they able to ever just have one?
That's a good point. Yeah.
Usually, no. That's what distinguishes the normie from the addict alcoholic, is that
Gotcha.
a normie may have a glass of Chablis or two and start to feel tipsy and say, I'm done, I'm finished, no thank you, no more, I have to drive home tonight. As for the addict alcoholic, 1 or 2 glasses of whatever you're drinking, you have just begun.
It's never enough.
Because the disease gets unleashed, the mental obsession, starts to flow, and then the allergy breaks out, and the next thing you know, you're just out. Like you want more and more and more. You can. One is never enough.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Or as they say, as they say, 1 is too many, 1,000 is never enough. I love that saying.
It's a good analogy.
Yeah.
So, what's the role of a support group? Do you think it's necessary in recovery, and what would you advise to someone that maybe they don't have anyone that they can trust or don't have a support community?
Well, a lot of addicts, alcoholics, and I heard this last week, and I thought it was brilliant. A lot of addicts, alcoholics say that they suffer from loneliness, but they're so amazing at isolating themselves, right? So,
Wow.
So it's kind of like it kind of contradicts itself. It's like you hate being alone, yet you will make sure that you're alone and not connecting. A lot of people that come into recovery, I see this quite often, is that they like to be in their comfort zone. Sometimes their comfort zone consists of them just being alone. Some people are just loners. They like to be by themselves. They do not connect with people. What I loved about recovery was that I got to come and people got to connect with me and make me feel loved and cared about to the point where I wanted to reconnect with them and others. In other words, I got so comfortable in my own skin from the love I was receiving from people that I wanted to kind of transmit that to other people too. So I think it's vital. It's of great importance that when you're in recovery, it's best to connect with people. And the best thing to do is, if you really want to stay sober, like if you've actually come to terms with the fact that you can't drink and use like a gentleman or a gentlewoman, you want to actually connect with people and see how the people who do have long-term sobriety, anything over 2, 5, 10 years, how did they do it? Why did they do it? Why are they staying sober? And these should become your new friends. I mean, because if you keep on going back and hanging out with the old school friends, they don't care about you. You're not. You have nothing that's of their best interest other than the fact that you are a good using and drinking buddy for them. That's it, right? They never care about you. If you get in trouble and go to jail, they're not going to come visit you. They need somebody to go and use and drink with. As for in recovery, whatever you got going on, there's always somebody around that, if you're connected in that kind of community, if you go to the 12-step meetings, there's a lot of love and care and nurturing there, and people will always put their hand out to you. You can make friends. When you have those friends, the best thing to do is to keep each other accountable. In other words, check in with each other every day. See how one is doing. If that one is depressed, you can talk to them. If you're depressed, they can talk you off the ledge. Whatever that is, but regardless of the fact, you have people that you can turn to, and that it'll definitely keep you sticking around when you're connected to a good, solid, sober social support group.
I love it. That reminds me, tying back to what you said in a previous episode about your text group, I believe, Sober Brothers.
Yeah.
Just creating a little
gratitude group,
gratitude, saying thankful, and texting each other, stay on point. That's awesome. Pej, that's all the questions that I had on this topic.
Awesome.
Is there anything else you'd like to add?
I would just, like to reiterate and tell everybody, please continue to listen to our podcast. Please. Also, we have the Ask an Addiction Specialist Facebook page.
Yes.
Check us out on there, as well as our Beginnings Treatment Facebook page. You can always ask questions on the Ask an Addiction Specialist page. If you ever have anything you're wondering about with a family member, yourself, whatever that's related to alcoholism or addiction, we always have professionals that are always talking on there. As far as the Sobergram goes, please give us your reviews. Tell us where we're coming short, or tell us what you like, or tell us what we need to improve, or what we need to not improve, or whatever. Tell me about my hair, about my eyebrows. Tell us about how much of a hunk this young man is next to me.
You're too kind.
And hope to see you guys all next week. Thanks.
Thank you all so much.